Hello, everyone. Welcome to another segment of Nonprofit Enthusiasts Live. We are so excited to be here. I am joined today by Mr. Joe Tolliver. Good
Hello,
morning.
everybody.
Joe.
Thank you for having me, Lashina.
Yes, we love it when you are on with us. So today, this month's theme is processes and systems. And today, we're going to be talking about R.O.P.E, reassess, organize, plan, and execute. But before we get started, we ask that you take a moment and invite your friends to the Facebook group. If your friends are already members of the group, go ahead and tag them in the chat box. If you're catching us on replay, give us a hashtag replay. And while we wait for others to join, just give us a hey, how you doing? Good morning. Let us know that you are here. One thing I want to do before we start to dive into the conversation of R.O.P.E, I want to say a special thanks to this month's Nonprofit Enthusiast Live sponsor, Lush Design Studio. Check out Lush Design for your graphic, branding, and content design needs. And a special thanks to Lush Design for believing in our nonprofit community and sponsoring this month's Nonprofit Enthusiast Lives. All right. So the time we've been waiting for, Joe, we want to hear about it. I remember last month you touched on a little bit about R.O.P.E while you were on. And today, just being able to talk about R.O.P.E and the importance of it when it comes to developing that process and reassessing the process within your organization. So I'm going to hand it over to you and let's dive in.
All right. Hey, listen, sometimes you have to get on a rope and hold on tight because, even for example, the pandemic was really a time that most of us had to hold on to the rope. Our operations for our nonprofit organizations were like on a roller coaster, up and down, setbacks, challenges. Many of us had losses. We lost staff, we lost programming, we lost funding, and even the way that we exist in the environments which we are accustomed to has changed. But what about our agency's perspectives? What about our mission and vision? Has it also changed? And that's what we're going to touch on a little bit today, because R.O.P.E gives you the opportunity to reevaluate, to take another look at some of your passions, some of your dreams, and some of your aspirations. In times of isolations like the pandemic, what we experience, often find ourselves looking back at our goals and our aspirations. We give ourselves permission to revisit our personal and professional goals, to determine if, is it time for us to recommit to it, or to our original plan, or if it's time for an opportunity to pivot. Like, the pandemic really put that up in our faces and gave us a chance to reflect. And in those moments of reflection, we may need to pivot if warranted, switch things up a little bit, but that doesn't mean we failed, right? That doesn't mean that our passion, our dreams didn't have merit, didn't have value. It just means that it's time for a new beginning. That's all. And if were a concept or a tool that I would suggest to help folks along, both on a personal level and on a professional level, is R.O.P.E, reassess, organize, plan, and execute. I mean, it can't get any simpler than that. But in this conversation, I like to break it down for you a little bit to kind of give you some ideas about what reassessing looks like, what organizing looks like. And a part of that we're going to participate in and talk about in this discussion. So do you have any questions so far, Lashina?
No questions so far. Excited to dive in. Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. So how about folks on the line? Anybody got any questions, any answers, anything that you can think of based on the reflection time? I mean, listen, during the pandemic, a lot of organizations closed doors. Some of you guys opened doors during the pandemic. So this is also a time for you to kind of look at, okay, now that the pandemic is starting the lifestyle for which we had to live for the pandemic has changed, and we're starting to get back to some essence or some normal life. Does your passion, does the work that you do still match the need that's in the community, or the need that's in the school, or the need that's in your neighborhood? Does it still match? Or is it time to reassess? Is this an opportunity to consider who your organization is and who you want to be beyond this moment? Like that's what reassessing is. It gives you a chance to revisit your original mission, vision, and goals as you prioritize. Priorities may have changed. It's also an opportunity to give meaning to your organization, right? New realities and new experiences. When you organize, you have to figure out which tasks are most important. So in the reassessing process, we're really taking a look at revisiting your mission, your vision. Is it still warranted? Does it still have the same impact that you thought it could in the community now that the environment has changed for us? Lashina, you do nonprofit support. You also have a nonprofit called Love that you've been operating for almost a decade, right? Or a little more than a decade.
Yep.
What about the pandemic that gave you a pause to say, hey, maybe I need to be doing this differently, or maybe I need to reconsider the work that I'm doing? Is the need still the same? Did you have those experiences?
Yes, we had a lot of those experiences.
And sorry to be badgering you with questions, but I'm interested.
Because as you were talking, I was thinking about that, how what we looked like pre-pandemic and what we look like now, which is different. And we had to reassess quite a few areas of the organization. One thing is we did have some good, like, a lot of good that did come out of it. And one of those was the increased needs for our services. But remember, so we were operating, I'll say, at a smaller scale prior to the pandemic. And then the pandemic occurred, the need increased, and it increased in a way of that the virtual component as well. Mm-hmm. At that time, we had a flood of volunteers that wanted to serve our organization. That's what we do. That's one of our components, is bringing in volunteers and providing them opportunities to work with youth organizations in our community. So we saw a flood in our volunteer realm. So meaning the way we operated our volunteer program pre-pandemic, we had to reassess, and we did implement a whole new system and all of that since then. And we had to move quickly. That was another thing. It wasn't like just reassess and we got time. We know we got that strategic plan in place. We could slowly walk and put it. No, it's like, no, it needs to happen. It needs to happen now.
Yeah. So not only did you reassess, but you had to organize, which is the second letter in R.O.P.E.
Yes.
Organize. So you had to figure out what tasks were important, what things that you were doing were important, and which things could wait or not even do anymore. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And so the focus became on the task, right? The switch over, one task at a time, starting with the most important things. And then when you get to a point where oftentimes I found some organizations have to triage. They have to evaluate the risk of those changes and decide on the overall willingness and the capacity to actually, from your board, to actually make those changes, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's always trying to create the balance between reassessing and then organizing in a way that you can communicate it to your board, because they're going to be important about those changes. Also, it's also important for your logic model, your program design. What impact that reassessment would have and the reorganization of your passion and the work that you're doing would have on your logic model. This is an opportunity. And let me just stop right here and say, if you don't have a logic model, you're in trouble. If you don't have a program logic model that talks about how your program makes an impact and changes the behavior or perspectives of others or conditions of others, then you're already starting behind the ballpark. So remember, your logic model is one of the most vital tools that you can use at your nonprofit, other than your money, your funding, your resources. But even if you have money, funding, resources, if you're not organized, if your program doesn't have deliverables and how you're going to reach those deliverables and how you're going to draw down those dollars, it does you no good to have those resources, because if there's no organization and you can't deliver that program with efficacy, then you're going to have to return those funds. So you really do need to have, I can't emphasize enough, the importance of having a program logic model, which talks about what problem you want to solve, what are contributing factors to those problems. And it also looks at what are the strategies that your organization could put into play, because you hope to make a change in your community or in the individual or in your neighborhood. And once you come up with those strategies, what are actions related to it? And those actions become your program. And at the end, if you did all of those things, what do you expect to get at the end? What are your outcomes? That's all a logic model is, but it tells a true story and it does so much work for your organization. Not only does it help you with the grant writing process, it helps you with your board development. It helps you stay on track with your program deliverables and delivery. So it is very important. It also helps you with setting up the evaluation of your program. So a logic model is important. And when you have your logic model in place, there's always an opportunity for you to reassess and to reorganize. But you must have a plan in place first. And if you have a plan in place, you can then start to look at a broad strategy, your plan, the P in R.O.P.E, right? Which is useful in making good goals more powerful and more attainable. When you pivot by changing direction, but it also allows you to stay grounded in your vision, right? And it starts off where you want to succeed, right? Where do you want us to? While staying grounded in your own vision, where do you want to succeed? You want to develop a strategy or a roadmap. That's your larger model. And achievable actions that you can really nail down and do. It's a step towards always reaching your goals. When you have a plan, you reassess, you organize, and you plan. And if you already have a plan, you're updating your plan to match your current environment. And all that's left to do, Lashina, to be quite honest with you, is to execute it, is to push it out, is to really nail it down and get your program services out there, be able to evaluate the work that you're doing, and be able to go back to your funder and say, hey, we were successful, we had a plan, we looked at it, some of the things on that plan didn't seem to fit the same environment that we were in before the pandemic, and we decided to catch up on a rope, to catch on to a rope, right? To reassess, organize, plan, and evaluate. And in that reassessment and in that organization and the replanning, our logic model changed. We pivoted. We pivoted because we knew that it was an opportunity, right? Pivoting is not failure again, right? Pivoting is an opportunity. And so I just want the folks out in the audience in the Facebook sphere to understand that you may be going one direction right now with your programming. That doesn't mean that you have to stay on that direction if it's not working and it's not creating the kind of impact your clients need, the people that you serve need, the communities that you need, right? So it's always good to take a fresh look, put fresh eyes on your passion. You may find, right, that your passion is still in line with the environment and the work that you want to do, but it doesn't hurt to reevaluate. And it also is an opportunity in that reevaluation stage, in that R.O.P.E process, to re-engage your board. To say, hey, let's come together. We have new environments, we have new situations. Let's take a look. Let's get on the R.O.P.E and take a look at where we are and where we think we should be based on our new realities. And that's all R.O.P.E is, an opportunity to look at new realities by reassessing, organizing, planning, and finally executing, right? So Lashina, after you found that you had all this new areas that you needed to reassess and reorganize and put a plan into place because you had a new environment, what about the resources to help support those new ideas and those new opportunities? How were you able to manage that?
Fortunately, because of us having the flood of volunteers, interns, and so forth coming in, the skill sets that we needed to do this R.O.P.E came in as well. So I gave the example of our volunteer arena, how we had, pre-pandemic, it was one way, but because of the increase, we had to kind of change the process and system of how we intake volunteers and so forth. So interestingly, we had a volunteer manager who that's what she does full time, who wanted to volunteer. So she volunteered after hour, for us, and developed our whole process and system to be able to keep up with what was happening during that time frame for us. So now we have that system for years to come, given that nothing else, but it's a system that not only takes care of us now, but also can grow with us as well.
Absolutely. The R in R.O.P.E, reassessing, is really an opportunity to give meaning to your organization, like the new realities, new experiences. And that sounds like what you just had, a new reality, and you coupled it with a new experience by tapping into your volunteers. And that's sometimes all your pivot may require.
Mhm.
You know, it may not be some big transformational thing. It may be something small in the way that you deliver your program services. It may be some way different in the way that you evaluate your program services. But there's always a chance to reflect, right? And to look back and to say, hey, does the work that I'm doing now match up with the passion that I have from the beginning? And does the passion that I have from the beginning match up with the realities that we have in this environment? And that's rope. That's rope all day long. So grab hold. You know, that's all I can suggest to you guys is grab hold to a rope. It's an opportunity for you to take a simple process and apply it to your organization, and then out of it really make some significant change or some for the way your organization will moving forward. Who do you want to be beyond the pandemic is the question. Who do you want your organization to be beyond the pandemic, right? And I believe in many cases, we've had folks who've called us who started an organization in the pandemic, right? That they saw the need was so great, they started their own passion work within the pandemic. What I like about nonprofit enthusiasts is that when we work with a client, especially a new client, and they come to us passionate and ready to work, we add the structure onto it, right? We help them develop their large model. We help them develop their fund development plan. We help them develop their strategic plan, their boilerplate for grants. We help them do all of that, and then they can really be successful, right? Without having to go through all those hurdles, all those barriers that most new nonprofits have to go through, which we went through, you know, those growing pains, right? Dealing with us at nonprofit enthusiasts, you avoid a lot of that, right? And you get an opportunity to have a connection between your passion and the structure you need to be successful. At Nonprofit Enthusiasts, we believe that we can turn you into Mr. or Mrs. Magnificent organization in less than 100 days. We can turn you into a nonprofit enthusiast in 100 days. It is really a goal where from pillar to post for a new nonprofit. And for some of you nonprofits who have already been out there, listen, we're a resource to help you pick those areas where you need strengthening at. Let us help you design your logic model so that you can have an evaluation plan. So when you go after funds, you can talk about how effective your program is. So those are things that we do at nonprofit. I gotta tell the truth because the work that we do, I feel good about sharing it, Lashina, because I know if we help one nonprofit organization, that influence could go to hundreds of people.
Yes.
And so the help that we gave that one nonprofit gets to spread out so far. And so that's kind of why we love the work that we're doing at Nonprofit Enthusiasts, because the reach is so great. So I like to close with saying, hey, look, don't be afraid. Sometimes you have to reassess. Sometimes you have to look at your organization and say, hey, look, I need to organize this differently in order to meet my environment, and come up with a plan to do that and then execute. And that cycle just starts over and over. You're always looking at opportunities to reinvent yourselves to create the greatest amount of impact for the folks that you're trying to serve.
Love it.
So what do you think, folks? Anybody in there thinking about, hey, look, this might be my time to jump on the rope?
Yes. And let me go over to the chat box and read some of the comments that's been happening. And hey, Cindy, good morning. Hey, Dolly, thank you for joining us. Shantae, hello, hello. Shantae says, I'm reassessing as we speak.
All right.
She said, and I asked her in what area. She said her board members aligning their skills along with community partners and fundraising efforts are the areas that she's looking into right now.
Got you.
She also did a logic model with the light bulb. So I'm guessing a light bulb went off. Shantae, do you have a logic model in place? I would love to know. Please let us know in the chat. Cindy said pivoting is not failure. That is right. And that's from your earlier conversation that you mentioned.
Absolutely.
And
it's just a new beginning.
Yes, yes, yes. And then Shantae says, love it. And that was from when we were talking about nonprofit enthusiasts and what we do here. So we appreciate you all. And I loved what you shared about what we do. One of the things about So I remember when I started my organization back in 2012, I wish I had nonprofit enthusiasts, put it that way, a nonprofit enthusiast to be able to help along the way. And we're able to bring, all of our challenges and all of that we faced over the years, we bring it to you and fast track it for you. Like here, let's do this, let's do that, and this is how we do it. We bring that order, that processes, those systems in place to help your organization grow. So, if you ever need help, don't hesitate to reach out. We are here. Those that have worked with us, they know, and I'm just saying this, we become part of the team where we're together, we're working together. And the style that we use is, I'm telling you, it's like no other. So you have to have the nonprofit enthusiast experience at least once. If you haven't had it, and then once you come in and work with us, it's a long lasting relationship. So definitely, reach out if there's any way that we can ever help you all. And I see Shantae said, need a logic model. Shantae, come on, let's go. What we waiting on? Let's go. Let's do it.
Hey, teamwork make the dream work.
Yep.
And we become officially a part of your team when we join.
Mm-hmm.
It's personal to us. Not only is it business, but we know that if we help you, like I shared earlier, we're going to help a whole bunch of other folks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where our passion's at. Lashina and I together probably have spent, 50 years in nonprofit?
Mm-hmm.
So this is our life calling. It's no getting around that. We know that. So the way that we're doing this is to help you help others. And oftentimes, Lashina and I, unbeknownst of us, find ourselves doing a rope exercise on many of the things that we do, because we want to make the process for you and how you transition your organization from just being a passionate aspiration of yours to a passionate aspiration that's structured, that can really create impact, that you can really get funded for and supported for. And that's what we believe. That's what we believe we do here at Nonprofit Enthusiasts. And we love to turn you into a nonprofit enthusiast, especially in less than 100 days.
Yes. Love it. And I just dropped, if you want to schedule a free consult with us, you could definitely do so using the link that I dropped in the chat. We would love to speak with you. The consults is with myself or Joe. And so you're going to be talking to one of us, and we'll be, helping you get on the track to help growing your organization.
And I promise to try to keep it at 15 minutes. I've been known to go over, but I'll try to keep it at 15 minutes.
Block your schedule out. Because Joe is gonna give it. We do it. It's just natural. We're gonna give it all when we're on that call with you. Just go ahead and schedule that call with us. All right. Anything else before I do our wrap up that you can think of on your end, Joe?
No, I hope everybody got something out of the message that I had today. I've been wanting to share this because not only does R.O.P.E, is it applicable for your professional life, but you can consider it for some of the things that you are faced in your personal life as well. I've used it on both ends, and I think it's a marvelous tool that folks can really take and do some deep dive type of work in terms of their passions and the things that they want to do in life and their goals. So the R.O.P.E exercise really is an opportunity, a overarching opportunity, not just for your professional life, but for your personal life as well. So grab hold and reassess, organize, plan, and execute. And that's all I have to share today. And thanks for having me on, Lashina.
Thank you for joining us. All right, so we're going to do it. We're going to hold on to our R.O.P.E. And this month is the perfect month to do so as we look at our processes and systems. So it's a great time to go ahead and reassess and go through the R.O.P.E model. So make sure that you check that out. We'll make that homework. Look at the areas that you can apply R.O.P.E to. And I know some was shared in the chat box. So go ahead and do that and come up with your plan and execute your plan. So reassess, organize, plan, and execute. So get ready. That'll be homework for this week. So before we conclude today, I would like to once again give a special thanks to this month's sponsor. So the way that we're able to keep these going is because of the support of sponsors that believe in the nonprofit community, such as Lush Design Studio. So please check them out and support them. They're graphic brands, content designers. If you need any of those areas of support for your nonprofit organization, check them out. And also they'll be joining us in a future call in the next couple of weeks. So you definitely want to tune into that call. And one last thing, I know I said homework earlier, so we're almost at 600, y'all. The last I checked, we're at 570. And I believe by next week, we could go ahead and hit that 600 mark so we can celebrate on that call. So if you could just take a quick moment, go up to the chat, because we don't want to keep, you know, we always say we don't like the best kept secrets. We don't want to keep this group a secret. We want to be able to share all the resources and everything going on in here. So just go up to the invite button, click invite, and invite a couple friends to this group. Your nonprofit friends, allow them, you know, tell them to come in and join in on what you've been experiencing through these lives. We would love for you to do that. All right, so that's all I have today. So thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see you next week, Thursday. Bye, everyone.